Sometimes the world looks like you ain't ever seen it before. Stuck behind never-ending windows, all you need is a door. Searching for something to put a smile back on your face. Just remember, in unusual times, it can come from an unusual place. You need a partner for the ride, 'cause everybody needs a Clyde. So set your worries to the side. Just ask, say the word and I'll be there. Just ask, you know the greatest things in life all come in a pair. They say hindsight's 20/20, but that ain't far enough behind me. So if you want the sweetest honey, I think hindsight's 1990. There's no need to pretend I got a hand I can lend, 'cause when you really need a friend, just ask. Shit 90 shows taught me.
Shit 90 Shows Taught Me was not filmed before a live studio audience.
Are you ready to do a little black magic? So are we. Welcome back to Shit 90 Shows Taught Me. I'm Jess Sterling here with my witchy co-host, Sara Fergenson. Sarah, how are you?
Yeah, thank goodness that witch book that I found when I was a kid at Barnes Noble and was like very determined that it was sent from the universe. Thankfully, that's coming into play today. I cannot believe it. I think that this is an episode that was made for us, is what I feel.
Seriously, although I will say we're not the biggest Star Wars fans, so unfortunately that's not going to be the focus of this podcast. However, we do have someone joining us today who is also ready to perform some black magic here. Marissa, how are you?
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, doing well. Also, this episode of Felicity is like, I feel like it's very historic. It has a lot of different
everything.
like things in it. It has like J.J. Abrams' Star Wars origin story. Like, there's a lot happening here, so I'm excited to talk about it.
Me too. I couldn't be more pleased, Sarah. The second I watched this episode called The Force, this is the penultimate episode of season 1. The second I watched it, I was like, this is it. We've peaked. Like, I love this episode. Like, we have Megan doing magic, we have relationship drama, we have like quadrangle relationship issues. Like, we have a little bit of Star Wars content, which again, who cares? And the return of Guy. Is Guy now a main character, Sarah? Like, is he someone we have to concern ourselves with now? Is it, have we waited too long to concern ourselves with Guy?
I'm pretty sure, like I said in the last episode, he is the star of the show. It's just all Guy all day. He has to go into the character rankings. Even though I'm kind of like indifferent towards him, because like I feel as though a guy named Guy is just subject to me forgetting that you exist. Because then you're just like, is that Guy, you know?
Yeah, Marissa. I don't know about you, but whenever I see a guy named Guy, I'm like, were your parents just like, did they have no other ideas? And they're like, well, he's a guy, we'll name him Guy. You know, I guess it's better. Marissa, can I just say, my husband is very excited for like baseball season that like started yesterday or something.
Yep.
And he comes barreling into the office to tell me something. And he's like, guess what? I'm like, what's going on? He's like, there's an old man on TV. I think it was something baseball related. Apologize if it wasn't. Named Seymour Wiener. And I was like, what kind of sick fucks did that to this poor man? And he was like 80 or something, Marissa. So he didn't even change his name at all. Like, I would have changed my name if my parents named me Seymour Wiener. Stop it.
That's horrible. That's horrible. I am for like, I have met a couple people whose parents chose interesting names. Like I once met a Taj Mahal, and then
oh no.
One of my favorite shows like ever was Northern Exposure, and one of the main actors on there was Rob Morrow, and Rob Morrow named his daughter too.
Of course. Of course you did.
tomorrow. Not just, but yeah.
Wow.
So I
Yeah.
mean, like, people But yeah.
Wow.
So I
Yeah.
mean, like, people have to think in the long term. But anytime I hear somebody named Guy, I just go to Sesame Street and think of Guy Smiley. Like, I can't. That's just how my
Who's
brain
that?
goes.
I only know Elmo. I don't know any Smiley.
Yeah. This was
Oh,
like
he's a
an
Muppet
old. He's
looking.
he's like
He looks like a news reporter.
he did do some of that. He also hosted many game shows. So
Oh, interesting.
I
He kind
don't
of looks
mean
like
to
Bert,
be.
like because he's yellow, like Bert.
he's got a lot of angles in his face.
He's very ovular head. Yeah.
Yes. So like this is yeah, I think this is where my elder millennial wisdom might come into play. um,
Because tell us a little bit about your history with Felicity, because you reached out to us and were like, hey, I love Felicity. Can I come on and talk about it? And we're like,
yes.
absolutely you can. So tell us about your history with the show and why you chose this episode specifically.
Well, this show is very formative to my development as a person, mainly because the show came out my junior year of high school and it's all about college. So
It's perfect timing.
I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what college is going to be like. Like, this is exactly what it is.
So you
Like,
stalked a guy to New York and
the New York of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. And or like I thought like rooms were going to be that big and we'd have these like fun adventures and I can still keep up with friends via audio
Yeah.
tape, which was so ahead of its time. I do have to say, like, the whole thing, I thought it was weird when I first watched it, but now here we are podcasting to each other and also leaving voice memos for each other in real life. So they were onto something there. But
I just want to know how
also-
much Felicity spends on postage
yeah, for sure.
every week.
Oh, so much money.
But also, like, Carrie Russell, I grew up watching Mickey Mouse Club on the Disney Channel, or MMC. If you're a cool kid, that's what you called it. And so Carrie Russell was on Mickey Mouse Club, and then Mickey Mouse Club, like, seeing her go into college was exciting for me. So I just wrote it, but then I didn't know that it was like also really, really well, like, Brian Grazer's the producer on it, and it's like a legit thing. And so that's what I would always tell my dad when he's like, why are you wasting your time on this crazy show? I'd
You're
be
like,
well,
Felicity
listen.
won an Emmy. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you. And then I did follow like J.J. Abrams did Alias right after this, and Alias was like a big show for me. And I think you can see some of that in this episode particularly. It's like very fun-ish, campy-ish that Alias would do from time to time. In particular for this episode, I just knew it combined like a lot of fun things, and so I just wanted to be here to talk about it. So thanks for letting me.
What a treat.
We're so happy to have you here. This episode, literally from like minute 1, I was all in on, because like I had kind of forgotten, Sarah, to be honest, that it was a penultimate episode. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really look, I just hit play, I'm not really paying super much attention to it. And then when it started and all the drama is like coming up, I'm like, oh my God, that's right. We have a finale next. They have to ramp up the drama. And
Yeah.
Sarah, like we had discussed this. Like, I think we asked, I don't remember what we predicted, but I know we talked about, like, do we see Ben and Julie like going out of the season unscathed? What about Noel and Felicity? Like, are they going to like re-DTR, or like what's the situation there? And Sarah, it's so funny. We talk about black magic all the time. And
We
about,
do.
from our Dawson's Creek days, if people are listening to Felicity and didn't listen to us podcast about Dawson's Creek, we loved the episode Witch Island, which was basically like an homage.
Okay, hold on. Look at this like creative, like,
you stan it. You love it to like the nth degree. I really enjoyed it.
That is one of my top 10 episodes, top 5 episodes maybe.
Yeah. I love it for like the bit that it became,
because we had so much fun podcasting about it. But I love the episode itself because basically these crazy kids go to the Witch Island, and Jen and Pacey do a little bit of black magic, and they do a love potion, which in my mind is 1,000% canon in Dawson's Creek, because like they didn't have a lot of, like, they start off the episode basically saying like, hey, isn't it funny that like we're in the same friend group, but you and I like never really, and we're both like what they perceive to be like the horrors of the group, and like
Mhm.
they never hooked up, and that's how they start the episode, and by the end of the episode they're hooking up, and I was always like, yes, like the spell that they cast on which island 1000% worked. And now I have the pleasure of saying the same exact thing for Felicity, which makes me just feel like maybe magic is real.
Yeah. Yeah, we just wanted to let you all know what that whole reference was, because this episode gave me so many like shades of Dawson's Creek, with the black magic, with the professor student relationship, which we'll get into, with the potential for a character to go on a trip for the summer, thus leaving a relationship they may or may not want to pursue. So a lot of shades of Dawson's Creek in this episode, but let's jump into season 1, episode 21, the penultimate episode of season 1, The Force. And Marissa, we start off with Felicity trying to get some sleep. It's like 2 a.m. She rolls over in bed, and Megan is performing witchcraft. She has like
Sure
a
is.
mini, like, I don't know if Marissa, or if you, I know you're on TikTok, but there is this
Mhm.
TikToker who like will make the most extravagant meals, but like in a dorm room. And this
Mhm.
is kind of the vibes that Megan gives
Yes.
me. Like, she literally has a cauldron.
There's like a cauldron, an altar. We have all of the candles, which again, I went to college thinking I could have candles. Thanks, Megan. When you really can't, like a hot plate was even like controversial
Yeah,
at the
no open
time.
flames allowed.
Yeah. So she really had the setup. She had the ambiance. Everything was going. I have to give her credit. Like she definitely was experimenting. Like you could tell like she was trying things out. And go Megan. I was like, I don't know if go Megan on the, not asking your roommate for consent in terms of like doing a spell on them and stealing their DNA, but
When
it
has
was
she
the
ever
90s.
cared? When has she
It was,
ever cared?
yeah,
She
yeah.
doesn't care about Felicity. Sarah, I loved omens ill and devil's bane decrease then cease as the dark moon wanes. Iconic.
How did we get an entire season of basically Felicity rooming with Megan, and this is the first time that she ever discovered that Megan does magic like this?
I want to say this is the first time that Megan has
Oh.
involved Felicity in any magic that she's done.
This would be like an immediate like, hello RA, which is actually Noel's job.
Yeah.
I need to get out of this rooming situation, even though it's the end of the school year. Like this is probably the line. Like as soon as I wake up from my slumber and see black magic behind me, I am like, I respect you and I respect your craft, but I must leave now.
Oh, you don't want to be involved in this?
No, I don't want this as like a roommate situation. She straight up stole Felicity's hair. And this is where I was like, no, 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 no. Like, because like, don't, like you can do your spells and I respect you, but like, I don't want, as Marissa said, my DNA being stolen and put towards your spells. She started just like fucking making spells like against Felicity. I cannot believe it. This is so disrespectful.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she burns Felicity's hair, which apparently she loves the smell of. And I'm like, okay, Megan, I love
No.
you, but girl,
Burnt
burning
hair
hair smells
smells
terrible.
Terrible. I know that because I once lit my hair on fire and it
Oh, I did too.
really does smell bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Marissa, this is like Felicity is frustrated, right? She's just like, obviously this isn't gonna work. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. And she immediately trips
Yeah.
over some books, and Megan cast a clumsy spell.
Well,
on
we're
Felicity.
all D&Ders. Spells work.
Mhm.
And so this one worked pretty fast.
Very fast. Did Felicity need a clumsy spell? Because I already feel like Felicity gives
Yeah.
clumsy vibes. But I guess we have to start off like low stakes.
Yes, that's what I think Megan was doing, is like, let me just see how this goes. She obviously has an agenda, as we see as her spells progress in terms
Mhm.
of the rest of the episode. So this, I mean, I'm not saying though being clumsy could be deadly, like I don't know.
That's
I don't know,
Is she
Megan.
trying to kill Felicity? Like, what is the intention here?
I think she's practicing.
I think
in
she's
my
practicing,
opinion,
yeah.
Megan is just practicing. And I think the reason is, I guess clumsy you'd never want to like cast on yourself, right? But like it's low stakes. And on top of that, Sarah, because they're roommates, she has the opportunity to monitor the progress of her spells because she's around Felicity all the time. So it feels like a really good test subject, especially easy access to her hair. It's probably everywhere in that dorm room. She probably didn't even need to pull one directly off Felicity's head.
Well, maybe it has to be a fresh hair.
That's true.
I
I
mean-
thought at first she was going to say, "Oh, the hair of a virgin," but I can't remember if she knows that Felicity lost. her
No,
virginity.
everybody knows
That's
that
right.
Felicity fucked Eli.
That's right. That's right.
But also, you know, I'm all for experiments. I'm all for this. Just like ask, like consent is important
Certainly.
in these in this situation. Just
There's
going back.
no way anybody would consent to your hair getting plucked for a spell. There's no way. I can't imagine.
I
one
might, if it was a
person-
good spell, like I might be okay
What,
with it if
Jessica?
it was a
What
nice
spell?
spell.
No.
Like a nice spell.
What's a
What
nice spell?
spell?
Like, oh, you're gonna be really good at retaining information this week. Finals are coming up.
Yeah, but what happens if it
Mm.
backfires and then you're 10 times worse at retaining information?
Well, then I don't believe in it anyway, and so I'm fine.
This is the
Placebo
thing.
effect is
Like,
real.
although I don't believe in every supernatural thing, I'm not going to work against it just in case it is real. Like, that's the thing. Like,
Mhm. This is like our ghost conversation.
yes, the ghost conversation, the robots. Like, I respect all entities in the event that they are real. And like that's the thing. Like I'm not gonna fuck with something like that, like magic, black magic, if in case it's real. And like the fact that you're like, oh yeah, like I like would do it just in case. I don't believe it anyway. That is just like that is going to get you in trouble, Jessica Sterling.
It might be
Certainly could.
tempting fate. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tempting fate. Yes.
But you know what? Sometimes I like a little risky business.
there you
and
go.
I just want to see what's going to happen. But Marissa, you've
Yeah.
brought a special little treat for us
Sure
today
did.
because a special thing about this episode is that we get tarot cards with like words throughout for every like section of this episode.
Like
So the
after
first-
commercial break, we're getting a new.
Yes. Yeah. So the first one is called The World, and the word across the screen is voyage. This is like a scene titled Voyage.
Yeah. Well, so I pulled my little tarot instructional deck, and okay, there's a theme of completion, harmony, accomplishment, and achievement. If the world reveals itself in the upright position, which it was in the situation, it shows that there's great unity and wholeness. Not necessarily going on a voyage. Could a voyage bring you wholeness? Absolutely could. But I
Mhm.
feel like there are some liberties, especially one later in the show, that are taken in terms of the meaning of these tarot cards. Tarot cards just like,
Interesting.
if you're asking yourself, like, why, Marissa, why do you have tarot cards? Like, are you a practitioner of said magic? I use tarot cards to help me get more in tune with my intuition, like looking at the symbols, looking at the illustrations, and then thinking about like what's going on in my life has helped me kind of like recover my intuition after some gaslighting in my life, things like that. So they can be used to, you know, help do that. And I think it's always
Very
interesting
interesting.
because they've been around like forever.
Mhm.
So just the story of them is interesting to me as well.
Yeah, also we're not here to yuck people's yum. If people love tarot cards, love astrology, you do you. And I also think, Sarah, we talked a lot about this for the astrology haters out there in the world. It's like
Mhm.
if it is a good tool for you to use to reflect on yourself and on
Yeah.
others and how you treat them and how you perceive them, and that is like a lens with which you want to view the world,
Yeah.
you're not hurting anybody. You just having a little
That's
fun.
True.
Unless you're using incorrect meanings for the cards.
Certainly.
JJ.
Yeah. Looking at
Eyes
you,
on you.
JJ.
So okay, so the first one is voyage or the world.
The world is the card. Voyage
So
is like the scene title.
basically the show is saying like is propping up the fact that there is going to be this trip from the East
Yes.
Coast to the West Coast. That's how like the show is.
Yes, that's how the
is,
show's
like,
interpreting it.
outlining it. Okay,
Yeah.
so all right, but that's not necessarily what the card itself means.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. And this is a really interesting way in which they do this episode where we have Felicity like talking to Sally as she normally does. And she talks about, oh, she likes math and science because she's a rational person, which I say, Felicity, yes, rational people move to New York to stalk someone they barely know. But sure, you're a rational person. But she says she's never really believed in magic, but the last few days you have to hear this. The whole thing started with Ben. So it's very much like we're flashing back to like, okay, we know shit's going to go down this episode, but we don't know what. Sarah, I know this is like a time old tradition in television to do like, oh my gosh, you'll never believe what happened the past couple days. I love this as like a TV trope. I think it immediately hooks me in. I'm like, I want to know what's going on.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to set up. And I think that like having Felicity in the future telling this story through the method of communication of like talking into the thing is like really good. It is like a unique way to hear like your main character's inner thoughts, which oftentimes like you don't know why people do the things that they do. So I know that we've like knocked on the Sally thing so much. Actually, Marissa, what do you think about like the Sally thing? I mean, you probably know if Sally is real or a ghost or what the deal is, but like like when you were watching it the first time, like were you into it? Because like for us, we feel like sometimes it interrupts the flow of the episodes.
Yeah, I could see that like watching now. I could see that it is an interruption. Teenage me was like, this is a great way to keep in touch with people. I love it. Like, I'm
Yeah.
going to continue to talk to my best friend. Like, this is it. This is how we can do it. We don't have to write. We could just talk into the thing. I never once did this, by the way. Like, this is
No,
never a thing.
The
that-
postage would have been
yeah,
so
because of the
expensive.
postage. Yeah, that was
But
the question.
I do love like you were saying earlier, Marissa, the idea of like voice memos. A lot of people use those, especially it's like, I don't feel like typing. Let me just send someone a voice memo. But I also like it's very 90s, right? Like Carrie Bradshaw. I feel like we got a lot of her thoughts through her writing her articles and kind of saying them aloud. And I was actually talking to my therapist about this because I said, I've never been a journaler. Like I have a really hard time committing myself to like a daily journal routine. Like it's never worked for me. But I said one of the reasons I think it's never worked is I can't write quickly enough to keep up with my own thoughts a lot of the time. And I felt like a way around that. I saw a YouTuber was talking about this. Cozy Gamer, I think her name is Kennedy. So if you like cozy gaming, she's a great YouTuber. But she was talking about doing like an audio journal where she basically there's an app, I don't remember what it is, where you basically like talk out your what you're working through in your head. And she's like, I found it's a great way to kind of work through what I'm going through. And it feels like very similar to what Felicity's doing. Obviously, if you're, audio diarying or journaling, you're probably not sending it to somebody, but it feels very similar, especially if you're treating Sally as like a confidant.
Yeah, I mean, and with today's technology, all of that can be transcribed and you could turn it into whatever you want.
Yeah. So we get an update on Ben. He had a conversation with his mom and she's going to send him the money. He didn't tell her about the gambling debts though.
Can I just say thank God though, because that storyline, I was like, I never liked it. What do you mean?
It was very blink and you miss it almost.
Yeah, and I can't remember because I did watch the episode prior to this before watching this one, but sometime he says, we're 18. And I'm like, are you though? Like an 18-year-old with a gambling thing, like sometimes there's a lot of liberties taken in this world.
It's very fair.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't blame Ben for not sharing the most embarrassing part of all of this.
Yeah,
I don't know, like, like, especially when like you have money issues, there's so much shame associated with it in general, and I think that if you're like, I'm almost kicked out of school because like I don't have a way to pay for it, and I don't have a place to live, and I have like I just feel like telling the truth about needing money for tuition and rent, that is like a big jump for him to ask. And then I can imagine how the gambling thing just adds another layer of like shame that he wouldn't want to get into.
Yeah, I totally agree. And especially because it's obviously also helps set up the fact that like, well, I had to sell my plane ticket to go home. So now I'm going to be driving, which is like what prompts this whole storyline for the road trip. And this is like Felicity and Ben are having this conversation at Dean and DeLuca. Meanwhile, I did not expect to have Danny in another episode, but here he is, and he's like having trouble with his own authority, which if I'm Felicity, I'm not being like, Danny, it's okay, boss me around. No, I'm bitter. I'm absolutely bitter.
Felicity is too good to be bitter. I think that like it was a blessing in disguise that she didn't get that promotion.
Yeah, I would not want to be an assistant manager and a freshman in college. Like, no, that would be too much for me, at least.
Especially with your boss being that woman. Absolutely not.
Yeah, she's terrible. So turns out they're gonna have to do like Friday night, they're gonna have to do a bunch of inventory together. And so that's what he's trying to tell them. And then we see like we get Ben on a payphone, and basically he's gotten a job where he is going to drive someone's car. They're moving to San Francisco. So he's going to drive their car from New York to San Francisco and get paid $500 to do so. He could take his time. This seems like a great deal, Marissa.
This seems also very 90s. Like, it's very like, I trust you with this car.
Yeah, random stranger.
To drive from here to there. I will say, like, in college, there were a lot of like, I'm driving home. I can put you in my car, take you to Chicago, take you to wherever you need to go type of thing, which is also.
Was it rideshare or something?
No, it was just like, there was this thing called a bulletin board.
Yes.
And you would like.
No, not the bulletin board.
Yeah, Sarah. It was a bulletin board. And it would say like, I'm driving home this weekend. Do you need to go home? And then like you would help pay for gas money, but it was not, it wasn't like, we didn't have an app. Like that was what was so interesting about the last episode is like watching everyone try to find Ben without technology. I was just like, oh yeah, we have all this stuff.
There's no Find My Friend location enabled.
Slap an air tag on that man.
But I have to I have to hand it to Ben. Like he's using his resources. He's trying to make the most of it. I also the guy with the car, he's making sure he has all the info. So it seems legit for me.
Yeah, so he got this good deal. He's gonna make some money and he's gonna take a trip across the country. And he's telling all of this to Lynn and long lost Nicole. Sarah, we said on this podcast, where the hell's Lynn's girlfriend? She just kind of disappeared, huh? Well, this girl is back with a bang this episode.
She was back and wants to bang, that's for sure. God, like I really did not like this at all. And like I didn't like it for Ben and I didn't like it for Lynn. Like, and I didn't like it for Nicole. Like I just feel as though like I understand that like they're 18, 19, 20 years old and they want to fuck around, but like why is she going after her boyfriend's best friend? Like why?
Well, and the way she goes about it too, so right? Bad. Like she's like she's being pretty direct when she's like, oh, well, I have feelings for someone else. And Ben is like, oh, well, that really sucks because I really like Lynn. And so like, this really stinks.
Well, and you can see Ben is like uncomfortable in the situation.
Yeah. And he says, I have a girlfriend. And like, this is so awkward. And again, like when we're talking about consent, like again, I feel like we've had this conversation a few times where it's like, look for signs that someone is interested in what you're doing. In my opinion, the way Ben is reacting to this entire thing feels so awkward. Like he's doing the thing where you like smile because you like don't know what else to do because you're in a really awkward situation. He mentions he has a girlfriend. Like in my opinion, there's 0% chance he's inviting this woman to kiss him, and yet she does. And I was like, man, your boyfriend literally left your presence like 2 seconds ago. And this is very bold, Marissa, to just be like, boom, in for the kiss.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's literally backed into a corner. Like she just keeps pushing him into the back of the payphone hallway by the bathroom, probably. And Lynn, like, first of all, side note, if you haven't mentioned this already, Lynn is Benvolio in Romeo and Juliet 1996 version.
Oh,
so it was good to see him again. I was like, oh, hey.
Romeo plus Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
He's not like a horrible dude. You know what I mean? Like,
no, we've really come around on Lynn. Like he seems like a very good friend. And like, I mean, we'll talk about the fact that he's talking about like, oh my God, every girl in New York City is so hot.
that
like
was
that's not
a
great.
moment. Yeah.
But he does seem like a decent boyfriend. And so, Sarah, this like really sucked. And I think like Ben's reaction, I think, could be confusing because he doesn't exactly pull away from the kiss. But this feels like a classic case, Sarah, of I'm a little bored in my relationship. I'm young, I'm good looking. A girl wants to sleep with me and I can't sleep with her because I'm in a committed relationship. This all feels so heavy. I just want freedom.
Yeah, which I mean, honestly, it's understandable. And there's nothing really wrong with that. And I do think that Ben was trying really hard to set boundaries and be vocal. I mean, like the only thing, like he didn't say like, I do not want this, please go away. Like he didn't say something like that direct, but he like his body language was very resistant towards it. I mean, like honestly, I don't really think that he was that interested in Nicole. Like maybe if it was somebody else, like I don't know, Felicity, maybe he would be a little bit more welcoming, but um like I don't like totally blame Ben all the time or at all. I just think that if he is losing interest, like you got to cut ties. And it's okay, like it's okay. Like your 20s is a great time to, be free, experiment, fuck around. Like I was in a relationship for my entire 20s and there was a big part of my life where I was like, I kind of wish that I was fucking around. But then again, I broke up in my relationship for a year because he wanted to fuck around and I wanted to murder him. So it's fine, actually. You know what? I've been on both sides of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about how Ben handles this whole thing because I totally agree with you, Sarah. Like I feel like his feelings and his desires are justified and understandable. It's like the 18-year-old way you deal with them that is the bigger problem here. So yeah, it's like it's confusing for him. Felicity says like, "Oh, this is so great." Ben is like, he invited Julie to drive to Palo Alto with him, and she was like super happy about it. And then Julie asked me, which I thought, oh, I don't want to be like a third wheel, but Julie seems like no, really excited about this. So then it turns into like this whole thing, Marissa, where it's going to be the four of them. It's going to be the two couples on a road trip. Noel has a few weeks before he has to go to this internship in Berlin, and they're going to take a cross country road trip. I mean, at the surface level, this sounds really fun. You're in college, you're on break, you're going to travel across the country with your best friend and your boyfriend. Like, sounds perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I would go. Like that was totally the dream, right? Like freedom, the open road. You're in college,
sounds
like
fun.
you have like a year of college behind you, all of this stuff. I was very curious as to what kind of car they would be. Like the more they kept inviting people, I was just like, this isn't a Toyota Tercel or anything, right? Like it's got to be like,
Yeah.
are we driving a minivan? What's happening?
No, they just have to. That's the thing. Like when you were in college, like how many people did you stuff in the car? Like,
oh yeah.
I remember like being in a car with like there was like 5 people in the back seat on laps. That's what you did. You just sat on laps.
Yeah, but like across the country, like that would be. I mean, I've done it for a long periods of time. I just was like,
in the trunk.
what? Well,
Actually,
and
yeah.
like
Also luggage.
where they were like planning the route too. They were like just basically naming anything
Any
west
city.
of them.
Yeah, they're like trying to plan out this whole trip and they're just like so excited. They're like, oh, we're going to go here and we're going to go there. And I want to stop here.
Once again,
That's
it's
the
like,
energy, though.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
energy. It's like we'll go to Georgia, but then we'll go to Indianapolis, but then we'll go to. It's like, well, okay, so what are you gonna do? You're going up and down, but I mean, they have 3 weeks to do so.
Yeah.
So maybe, but also like putting a lot of mileage on somebody else's car.
Yeah. So they're all excited for this, but before they leave, enters Guy, of course, and he has this like backpack, and him and Noel are working on their like final design project for school or something. However, he's like, we're gonna have to do all this work from in line for episode 1 of Star Wars because it's the 90s. This is when episode 1 came out. It was like a very big deal.
Which
And they're gonna have to
was.
wait in line for like 48 hours. Marissa, did
was
you
a
see
huge
this
deal.
in the theaters? Like, did you see
I
Star
did.
Yes. Okay.
However, I did not camp out. I did get lucky and I got an entire, like, I went with my neighbors because back then there were things called like neighborhoods and you were friends with people on the block. That
Mhm.
not the JLo block, but like the block you actually lived on. And then I went with my neighbors and we went to like a matinee and we had the entire place to ourselves. Like
Ooh.
nobody was there and we just like ran around and it was great. But I do remember like this was before iPhones, but it's the same type of energy of like when the iPhone came out and people were camping out trying to get tickets.
Yes.
It was a magical time to be alive.
So wait, okay, so this is the one where like Anakin's like a kid.
Yes, the first
Yes.
one where
They
Anakin
do
is
the
like a kid.
racing, whatever
The
the
pod racing. Yep.
pod
Mhm.
racing. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yay.
I
So
will
Guy's
say,
very excited.
Guy loves it. Guy's excited.
Mhm. And Felicity even says, I think that sounds like fun. Like, I mean, to be fair, like Felicity's also a bit nerdy. So, like, this tracks, right? Like, she would think, that sounds like fun. I mean, listen, a lot of us did this sort of thing. And I didn't do, obviously, I wasn't a Star Wars person. And when this, I haven't seen like hardly any Star Wars movies in the theater, but like we did the like, oh, we're going to the Harry Potter midnight
Yeah,
premiere, the
yeah.
Hunger Games midnight premiere, everyone dressed up. Like it's
The
an
Marvel
event.
movies.
Yeah. It's like a whole event. And so so that's what Guy and Noel have going on. Felicity also goes to sit on the bed and falls off, which again, very clumsy thanks to Megan's spellcasting.
It's fact. It worked. I can't believe it. Magic.
Little black magic. And then we get our next tarot card. It is Strength, and the scene title is Action. So, Marissa, what do you have to say about this one?
This one's not that bad. It's about like the strength card is about it's a woman standing next to a lion, and so it is strength, and usually the strength is like lion energy, but it's
Mhm.
confidence, focus, compassion, valor. So like if I have confidence, I'm probably going to take action. This one's not too far off. So 1 point for JJ, I guess, on this one.
Sarah,
Giving out
is this
those points
for-
sparingly.
Is
What was
this
that?
is this for Elena and McGrath? Like, is that what we're like the confidence, right? Like, because it's like McGrath is like intimidated by Elena. Is that what we're supposed to think on this one?
I honestly, sorry, JJ. I can't put one.
Take the
I
point
can't-
back. Take the
I
point back.
do need the point back. I don't understand the math. What does it mean? Maybe once we talk through it, I can have a little bit more insight. But from the top of my head, I like do not understand and remember
Yeah.
who has strength. I have strength to continue watching this McGrath Elena thing.
Yeah, I
right?
can't tie it to anything in the plot, but that's what it means.
Yeah. Megan is going to be casting another spell on Felicity, and she says she needs a fingernail clipping.
No.
Um,
I would just be like, no, you may not. I'm sorry, but like, I refuse. Like, I
love
don't want,
this.
I'm not going to be signing up for this.
Megan's an icon.
She's a psycho.
I mean, yes, obviously, in the best ways possible. So we hear like a little bit of like a quick one-line thing, Marissa, where we find out Felicity did invite Elena on the trip, which I'm like, Elena,
Right?
protect your peace, girl.
Right?
You don't need to be involved. You don't need to be the fifth wheel in this freaking caravan. She's like, no. I'm staying in New York City. I'm gonna look for a hospital job. Obviously, Marissa, we have to question is like, is she doing this because of wrath and everything? And
Not my
1000%.
favorite. But yes, that is why she is staying.
yeah. And then we get McGrath's seminar. And yeah, like after class, Elena stays after, and they're like, oh, we never like set up a day to like go have our little date. That is unprofessional and disgusting. So they decide, yeah, okay, we're gonna go here on Thursday night, blah, 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 whatever. More to come on that, Marissa. I hate the storyline.
I hate the storyline, but I will say that was a accurate portrayal of a discussion sized room in a college. Like
There you go.
Like, point for that one. I was like, okay, that one I've seen before. But yeah, no, that whole thing made me uncomfortable. Even then, I was like,
Sarah, do we think that Felicity is going to be the first one to find out about McGrath and and Elena? Is she going to be the one to try to talk sense into Elena when someone obviously finds out?
Absolutely, yeah. Like, who else would? Megan?
Do you think she like knows by the way this interaction goes?
I feel like she knows something is up, but like especially because of the McGrath being so tough on Elena later on in the episode. Like I feel like Felicity's like, what the fuck was that? Like she knows something is up, but she doesn't know what.
I honestly just feel as I'm like, it's such a weird interaction, to be honest with you. And like once again, I just keep going back to the fact that Felicity was like, oh, he only likes you because of X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Because like he only calls you by your name. Everybody else is Ms. Porter or Mr. Smith or whatever. I don't know. I feel like it's so obvious, but also we're the
But I
ones
don't think you'd ever suspect this.
we have all
Certainly
the
not.
information, yeah.
Certainly not with Elena, I think is the thing. Like I don't think that Felicity would ever think like Elena would be involved in something like that.
No, because Elena is the one that always like whips Felicity into gear.
Exactly. So we get the foursome, the two couples celebrating their road trip and trying to like plan it out. And they're like, oh, we're all excited, but no one realized how complicated it would get. And I'm like, oh,
Foreshadowing.
Felicity breaks a glass because she got the clumsy spell. So, you know, and this fucking creepy bitch, Sarah, this freaking girl, what is her name even? Nicole. Ben is like cleaning up glass and Nicole is eye fucking him from across the bar. Like, yeah, Ben, sweep up that glass, baby. Look how sexy you look.
The behavior is so unhinged that you would think that she was the one that got the love spell put on her.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere. Yeah.
Like this is weird for me, Marissa, to go from a character who had like we met in one episode, completely dropped off the radar for like 3 or 4 episodes, and suddenly is back and has this massive crush on Ben.
Yeah, this is, I think, something we don't see as much anymore because we have shorter TV seasons. Like, I think this is a symptom of the 22 episode season and people having to like pop in and pop out just to move the plot along. Like, obviously, Nicole's role here is not to get together with Ben. So spoilers, but
yeah. So if Ben, so if we needed, let's like rewrite this. If we needed Ben and Julie to break up based off the fact that Ben's 18 years old and there's many fish in the sea, I say flash to Ben at the swimming pool and like doing his laps and then seeing like other women in their bathing suits and being like, damn, this is like really tough. And like then like a big dramatic scene with Julie, because like I mean there is something to say, like, you know, like we want to have fun, but you and me, like we have a lot of shit going on. Like maybe like it just didn't have to, we didn't have to like throw Nicole into this mix.
I don't think we needed a third party. Like I think we could have even had like, what if in planning their trip across country, Julie's like, oh, we should stop and like talk to, you can meet my parents, and that is like very serious for Ben, and he's like, whoa, we're moving like too quickly. Like there's an easy way to do that storyline, Marissa, without throwing in a third party.
Yeah, which is, it was lazy, JJ. 0 points.
Seriously, we're just like poor JJ. It's just like, wait a minute,
poor JJ.
I thought I did something good here.
Yeah. So we get our next tarot card, the Tower, and the scene title is Adversity.
This one, I think, like this one, okay, because in the tarot, when you see the Tower, it is a symbol of like things are going to fall apart. This is something that was strong, something that was here, something you could count on is going to fall apart. So you would need to have like diversity of adversity, like tools in your tool belt to kind of get through that. The words that come up when you're looking at this card are like ruin, disgrace, disaster, catastrophe. Now I will say, if you are a practicing tarot, if you see it reversed, it means the opposite of tragedy. So every card has like 2 type of meanings, but this is definitely upright. So things are about to fall down, and I think that one we can trace to some things in the plot.
Certainly. Yeah, we get Felicity coming back into her room where Megan is trying to hunt down a stray Felicity hair off of Felicity's pillow. Felicity is not pleased with this, and Megan correctly, I think, Sarah asserts like you're just afraid of my power, aren't you? Like I'll teach you to harness the force, girl. You want me to help you out? And Felicity is in deep denial even as she rips one of her jackets trying to put it on.
I'm like, yes, I am terrified of you and I respect you. And I would appreciate greatly if it's not too much trouble for you to stop practicing magic on me. Please, please, please. I just can't. Oh my god.
Do
I
you
would be
threaten the
terrible.
box? Is that how you get her to stop? You're like, I will
No,
look in that box. I will take it
Jessica,
and I will hide
why
it.
do you have to be so fucking aggressive? Why would you
Because I don't
why
think
in the world?
Megan
Oh,
will
okay.
listen to reason.
She legitimately is psychotic and you want to match that energy by threatening her?
Yes.
That's terrible.
I do want to match that
Stop it.
energy.
I hate
Yeah.
your fire sign energy right now. Like that is bad. Bad. Please.
Listen, you come
No.
at you mess with the bull, you get the horns. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like you gotta
Okay.
just
Let's bring in the earth, the calming factor.
Hi.
Marissa, please,
Hi.
how would you address this? Because being water, I'm like, please, like, I beg of you, like, please stop. Jessica wants to light the entire apartment on fire. Like, how
Yeah.
do you resolve this?
Be like, hey, hey, Megan, how's it going? What are
How's
you,
it going?
what are you up to? Would you like to talk? Let's talk about why we need to do these spells. Like,
Yeah,
what?
let's look behind behind the
Why?
meeting.
Why
Yeah,
are we doing this? Are you
just
avoiding finals? Can I help you find a tutor? Like, what is happening?
Oh my gosh.
let's try to work through this. Not like
Yes.
let me threaten you and just piss you off more. You can't do that to a witch. She's just gonna come back at you and just make the spells more
I
powerful.
would probably also say, like, hey, you don't need to do anymore. I've already been clumsy all week. Like, I probably, if I was Felicity, would have like validated the fact that this had worked in some way
Ah.
to kind of, make Megan kind of take a step back of like, oh, look, I did that. I can, go back to my life or
Mhm.
whatever, as opposed to encouraging Megan to continue her quest. I do
uh
have to say real quick though about the Force. Um, just to put this in the time period before this, girls and Star Wars, like no, like there was Star Wars was definitely a boys thing, was not necessarily a girls thing. So to see the Force framed in a woman character and talked about was kind of like a big ish deal. And you could see like later on, JJ Abrams has Felicity say she has watched Star Wars, which was a huge deal in 1998. Like that just
mm.
so I do have to give JJ some points here because he did kind of enter women into the conversation. There's a lot to be said about what he did with women in Star Wars, which is not the point of this conversation, but I do just want to point out that this is the starting of that conversation and I know it's one that still continues today within the Star Wars fandom. And so the fact that the Force here is being framed as something that's attainable to all of us, something that like we all interact with in our own way and call it something, whatever we want to call it, I think was at least pretty cool for 1998
Mhm.
in that way. It
Yeah.
would be 1999 at that point because we're on episode 22, or
Mhm.
21. But yeah.
No, I appreciate that perspective. That makes sense to me. And I think you can kind of feel that, right? Like Megan saying the Forest, Felicity having seen Star Wars
Yeah.
and saying, oh, waiting online for, of 24 to 48 hours sounds like fun. She's not saying, ugh, that's so nerdy.
Well, it's also
Yeah.
like, oh, she says like that's cool. So like to see somebody like not be like, oh, like gross, like you're really doing that. And then once again, it
Mhm.
being like a traditionally attractive woman,
Mhm.
Yeah.
um, it could have really gotten people being like, oh, like
Mhm.
if Carrie Russell watches Star Wars, then like,
Right.
like maybe that I could do that too.
Or I
Mhm.
can at least tell someone that I watched Star Wars because I'm sure there were like
Yeah.
I watched Star Wars as a kid, but I couldn't necessarily have the same conversations as all my friends who were boys on the block were having. Like I couldn't get
Mhm.
into like because like Star Wars isn't for girls. Like go play Barbies or something, which
Mhm.
has had its own thing. But
Mhm.
just wanted to drop that in there.
Yeah, that's a great thing to have in there. McGrath's seminar. This is when he like Elena. So we know that the next spell that Megan casts is for forgetfulness. And Felicity goes to answer a question in McGrath's class and then forgets what she was saying. And Elena wants to answer, and McGrath is like, why don't you let someone else answer for a second? And it's like, whoa, bro, okay. And
Elena got the Hermione treatment.
brutal. I hate to see it. That's going to come back into play later. We have Lynn and Ben at the library, and they're doing the whole like Lynn's accent cracks me up so much. Like he's like, oh yeah, I saw this girl crossing Broadway. Oh, she had legs up to my friggin' elbows. Like, just can't.
He's a genius.
It's so
Who is
funny.
this man?
It's
Mullet
Benvolio.
Lynn. Yeah, it's just Lynn.
Lynn from I can't really Google, but I
No,
wanna
don't
know.
Google. Stop Googling.
I just want to know who this man is. Who's the man?
I don't know. Redheaded Lynn.
Dash
You could look up Romeo and Juliet and not get any spoilers,
go.
and click on Benvolio.
His name
Yeah.
is Dash.
He looks like someone who would be named Dash.
He's
I'm
definitely not a
telling you-
guy.
The recent pictures of him, he's fucking hot as hell.
Oh.
Yeah. He's like daddy, zaddy. I want him to throw me across the room. He's 6'3".
He's
This man's
tall.
very
Like,
tall.
yeah.
Really tall man. Okay.
Yeah.
So Lynn has to go find candy because gum is not acceptable. Which of course,
Conveniently.
yeah, so convenient. So leaves Nicole and Ben behind. And Nicole again is like, oh, I just want to kiss you. And like, again, Ben full on states, Marissa, do you want to make me uncomfortable? Is that what you're trying to do? He's obviously uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't like this at all. I mean, I will say the library in college is a place that sometimes you go to do
Oh,
those
like the
things.
stacks?
Yeah. However, if someone is uncomfortable about it, that doesn't mean like, hey, I'm at the library, you're at the library, let's go make out. Like, you have to have like a conversation.
Does that
about
work
it.
for anybody if I'm in the library and
No.
somebody else is in the library?
No, we don't want people thinking this. The library
Okay, I
is a
take it
great
back.
place. A
I'm,
great
ta-
place
I'm
to go
taking it
read.
back. I'm sorry.
But I mean,
yeah.
consenting adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. Sarah, like to me, it's obvious that like even if Ben is interested in Nicole, it feels like he's steadfast in not wanting to cheat on Julie, you know? And so like I feel like at the
Yeah.
very least she needs to respect that.
But she does not.
She doesn't.
Well, and putting myself in like Ben's shoes, he just got a win by like talking to his mom. Like he's feeling like he had a vulnerable moment there. It probably boosted his confidence a little bit. So he's trying to be as clear with her, at least, even if though he wasn't clear with Julie, he's trying to be clear with Nicole and say, this is not what I want right now.
Mhm. Yeah. So then we get Ben, Felicity, and Julie getting the car from the guy. And Julie has like a minor faux pas where she just mentions like, oh, getting into an accident or whatever. And she wants to go to Graceland. And Ben is being very snotty, Marissa. And to me,
Yes.
this gives such vibes of, I want to get you mad enough at me that you just break up with me instead.
This is total manipulation, 100%. It's like, I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want to have to say things. So I'm just going to say, ew, Graceland. Everyone goes to Graceland. Or, I can't believe you talked about your ticket that you got out of. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal.
No, sincerely not a big deal at all. Like he was just being rude with her to her. And you're right. Like he was just trying to get her to break up with him.
He's planting these seeds right
Trying to.
Yeah.
What a douche.
Yeah, it's not great. This is where I get, again, this is just like shows the immaturity and the age of the characters, in my opinion, that like this is the route you would go rather than sitting down and having like a frank conversation, you know. Then we're in line for Star Wars. And we have Noel and Guy working on this project. And of course, it gets into conversation about Noel's relationship with Felicity, because Noel finds out, Sarah, that he's going to have to go to Berlin earlier than he thought, which means he's going to have to miss the road trip. And now he's like really concerned. And I love Guy being like, you're going to choose your girlfriend over the most prestigious internship? And Noel's like, oh, well, actually, she's not my girlfriend.
It's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do it for somebody that I'm not with, you dummy. I think that Guy is just like all of us. Like, you stupid, just go to the internship, like go to Berlin, and like have the opportunities that are getting bestowed upon you. Like, all of us is thinking that. And like, going back to what you were saying earlier, like we were all telling Joey Potter to go to Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you're young, yes, go explore things, but also don't be done. Like, not that capitalism is a mean thing, and if you're getting an opportunity like this, take the opportunity and go do it.
Yeah,
Take
he's just
explore.
worried because he's like, oh, the summer would be like a perfect time to like for us to work things out and get in a relationship again.
But
And it's,
also, like,
you
she
know.
loves sending tapes to people. Like,
Yeah,
she
exactly.
has like a proven long distance relationship of sorts. So, you
Mhm.
know, like there's something for her credit there.
And
Yeah.
summer's 3 months long. Like, if you can't be away for 3 months, like, ugh.
Mhm.
Especially if you're not girlfriend boyfriend, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You haven't DTR'd. Come on now.
Yeah.
We get our next tarot card, the Empress.
Okay. This is like minus negative 100 points for
I
because
love this. Okay.
this is the thing, specifically because of the scene that follows it. So the word that comes with Empress is tempted, right?
Mhm.
The Empress card represents fertility, expression, stability, motherhood, abundance, intuition. You're
Oh.
experiencing new life. This could be more than physical fertility.
Yeah, no, all JJ Abrams did was like, oh my gosh, there's a hot girl on this card.
Yes!
Boom, she's the
This-
siren.
This is where I was like, no, JJ, you're not going to use the Empress card and then put this scene that we're about to talk about right after it. That's no. That's a no for me.
Mhm. He really
So
didn't know what he was doing.
messy.
He had no consultants on to teach him
Yeah,
about
I mean,
this.
No, he
I'm
just
sure
like
he had
got
all
the
his-
deck and was just looking.
I'm sure he had all his
Ay, ay.
Star Wars people around for the 2 seconds of Star Wars stuff, but like seriously, there's
Yeah.
enough people
Put
that can
some
tell
work
you.
in.
Yeah, go to the
Yeah.
library.
Work harder.
Sarah, talk to me about this scene with Ben and Nicole where she cons her way up
Yeah.
into his apartment. He's
Yes.
obviously uncomfortable, but doesn't really know what to do. She ends up topless.
She is like, she just happens upon no shirt.
Well, the thing is when she's unzipping her shirt, she's like, oh, do you want me to stop? And he says yes. And she does it. Stop asking him these questions if you're not going to actually listen to his answers.
No, she's fishing. She wants him to be like, no, I don't want you to stop. And then I was thinking that Julie was going to come in the door, but it's Sean, which kind of just aids her whole speculation that like there's going to be like some sort of Sean Julie thing in the future.
I
but,
hope so. Yeah.
so
She's the
Sean
Pink
would
Power
never
Ranger.
do this.
Everybody wants to be with the Pink Power Ranger.
absolutely. She's
Yeah.
gonna be on what's that podcast with that Boy Meets World podcast that I talk about with
Pod
Danielle
Meets
Fisher?
World.
Pod
Pod
meets world.
Meets World. Yeah, she's gonna be on that this week.
By the way, should we take a quick second and stop down and talk about how they're making a Felicity podcast now from like the people that were on Felicity and how upsetting it is considering this is the second time it's happened to us, Sarah, where we talk about a show and then the people that were on the show are like, you know what would be fun if we did a podcast?
Yeah,
And we can't even listen to the podcast because there's full spoilers in it.
very true. But it's probably gonna be a better podcast. So if you want to listen to that, go.
I don't even know the name
I
of
think
this.
it just speaks to like the trend setting that you two do
Yeah.
in the podcasting world.
We're
You're
so trendy.
like you are the crystal ball of podcasting.
Oh,
Love that.
indeed we are, of course.
So Marissa, can I ask
Mhm.
if you're Nicole here and you're trying to get up into this guy's apartment, right? And you're like, I'm gonna bring him over a little treat, something to enjoy. I don't think I would bring hot chocolate.
Okay, here's the thing. This is very confusing for me because I did not have like a very social dating life at this time in my life. And so I was like, what is happening? Like everything I was like, I'm like, is this what we're supposed to do? Is this how it goes?
Yeah.
What's going on? Like, what?
1000%.
What? No, I don't think hot chocolate would be, the signal sender in the situation. I don't really think she had to bring anything over. She knew exactly what she was like. She knew that Lynn wasn't there. She knew that she needed to talk to him for a few minutes. She had this whole thing planned out. I think I wouldn't even brought a gift if I was gonna, if I had this play, I would just play. I
Yeah.
would not try to be like, and also here's some Swiss Miss.
Sarah, she also says the
Yeah.
fastest way to get over a crush is to act on it. Is that accurate? Because it feels not accurate to me at all.
I feel like a lobotomy is probably something that we should explore.
I think the quickest way to get over a crush is to like find the thing about them that gives you the ick.
Oh, okay, hold up. I had like a crush on this person, and then the way that I got off that was that exact thing. Was
You
like
have to
somebody-
find the ick.
but it was somebody else telling me like all like the bad things about that person.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which sometimes you
then-
do need an outsider's perspective because it's like, oh
Yeah.
my God, isn't it so cute how he doesn't have a job and lives with his mom? They're so
Mhm.
sweet together. And it's
He
like,
really
no, you
cares
need-
about his
Yeah.
family.
Yeah, and you need someone to be like, that man
No.
is in his mid-30s and he needs to grow up and get a job. Like, what are you actually thinking?
Yeah. I mean, like as a friend, like what is to be done when your friend is crushing on a loser or like somebody that's clearly not good for them? Because like you don't want to be like pushing them away, but also you want to be like, stop it, like just stop.
I'd be like, I heard, did you know about this? Did you know this? I didn't know this, but I apparently knew this about this person. Or like if I knew something,
Yeah,
I would be
yeah.
honest and I would say, but I also would probably like, I don't know. It's hard because
You gotta
I
be
would,
careful.
yeah, you want to support this person, like, because they're your friend, just in general. So just be there for the whole ride from start to finish, no matter what direction it
Yeah.
turns.
I totally agree. That's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
So yeah, like we said, Sean comes in and he's just like, hello. And he just leaves. Like he's like, okay. He's like,
I
walks
love
out the
Sean
room.
got his paycheck. He got in, he said his line, he turned around, and that was like,
Comes out.
How where do you think that Sean's next move was in this moment? Like, does he go to Chloe and be like, "You'll never imagine like what I just saw"?
That's
Like,
my first move.
is he like going back and forth? Like, do I need to tell Julie? Like, where is Sean going in this moment?
well, he's already kept, like in the previous episode, Julie walks in when he's talking to Ben about the money thing, and he's already like keeping a secret there. I don't want to give too much away because I've seen everything, but if I were him in this moment, I'd be frustrated that there's just like so many secrets in my apartment.
He's playing secret keeper, and like we know he really likes Julie. If I'm Sean, I think first things first is I'm talking to Chloe about it. If like I feel like I can trust her, and if we've gotten to that point in the relationship, where I feel like I can divulge this to her and talk to her about it. But I honestly think my next step is like talking to Ben and having a frank conversation and being like, listen, I don't mind like you doing whatever you got to do with your personal life, but also like I feel like now I know things that make me uncomfortable with being around Julie. And like I don't want to have to be lying to her. And so I think you need to talk to her. And obviously this is like a 30-something-year-old saying that's what I would do, but like they're all like 18 or although Sean is
but not
older,
Sean,
right?
yeah. I, like
Sean's old as
Sean
fuck.
also put himself in this weird situation of being like the parental role for these children.
Yeah. God, I hate to be Sean in this situation.
Sean's like 25, we think, maybe.
Yeah, like mid-20s, I think. Yeah.
I mean, with that apartment, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, not a great spot for Sean to be in, but we get our next tarot card, the moon, and the title card says danger.
Danger. Well, the moon is
Danger.
like about your emotions. It can talk about like illusion, risk, intuition. Be cautious. So this one's not too far off.
Okay.
This one, but still the hole in which JJ dug himself from the last card, I don't know if we have come out of that hole with the moon.
I don't think so. We're not quite there yet. I feel like he like, he saw the lady like drowning in blood or whatever the heck imagery was on that card and was like, this looks like danger.
Danger.
So Felicity comes back in her room, Sarah, and Megan is ripping up a picture. And okay, this wouldn't be a big deal in like today's world where you could buy a photo for like 10 cents at Walmart and you could easily print out a bunch of copies of the same photo you took on your phone, right? But in this day and age, in the 90s, Sarah, ripping up a photo that is the only photo that you have of all your friends together, that is a crime.
So, yes, and I'm assuming this was probably a disposable camera because, like, if we had the negatives, then like maybe you could redo it.
But it's still way more work, is the point.
Actually, when you got a disposable camera, didn't you get negatives?
You always got negatives.
So there's a way to get it back.
There is,
if
but
she
she
has
shouldn't
the
have to. But
negatives.
she might not have the negatives.
Yeah, maybe she tossed it. Yeah, like I would be pretty pissed if somebody was just like randomly doing like, cutting my pictures. That would be, and I would be like, this is creepy, Megan. Like, this is one step too far. Why are you doing this? So what spell was this supposed to be? Was this
is like, I think, well, at least I think Felicity thinks it's a love spell because so she rips all the paper. We see all the little floating heads whirling around.
Wait, hold up. No. Megan broke up all the couples because she's so sick of all the drama.
Yeah, it's like an anti-love spell.
She cut it up. And all the couples break up.
Yeah. And then later when she tapes them back together, that's the love spell.
And was that intentional?
I mean,
it's Megan. I don't know.
Who knows? I love her saying, this spell is going to be so kick-ass. Just incredible. She doesn't care. Like she's like, I just want to practice my black magic. I don't care what happens with my stupid roommate and all her friends. What do I care? I don't even know Elena's name.
This is like legitimately why Felicity needed to get out the first week. I mean, like, I don't want to blame Felicity, but like, honestly. And why didn't Megan get a single? I don't know. I just have so many questions.
Well, Megan needs her own entertainment. Like she's gonna need a roommate. Like I feel like Megan needs a roommate.
Also, I feel as though the closet that Megan has all of her demon summoning things in is probably supposed to be a shared closet between them, and it's just packed filled with like creepy clowns and like her box and candles and whatever. It's just chaos in there.
At Dean and DeLuca, we have Felicity covering for Ben when he sees Nicole coming in. He says, hey, like, pretend I'm not working.
Stalker behavior, Nicole. Sorry.
Not great. And Felicity should recognize stalker behavior, like this is not great. And so Felicity asks like, oh, what's going on? And the way Ben downplays what happened absolutely had me dying, Sarah, where he's like, oh, she's been like sending me these signals. And he's like, well, the first signal was that she kissed me. And the second signal was that she took her clothes off.
So subtle. These signals are so subtle.
It's not the fact that she said, I like you. No, it wasn't that. It was when she, just a subtle signal of kissing me and taking her clothes off.
I downplay it because, if he reveals so much to Felicity can go back to Julie. So he's definitely trying to downplay all of this.
I also love how he was behind the door the whole time. Like he's hiding.
Yeah, without a hat on, I might add.
Yeah.
Ben never wears a hat at Dean and DeLuca like he's supposed to. But I will say, like, I want to know, Marissa, what did you think of the way Felicity handled this? Like, do you think that she had Julie's back enough in this conversation?
Reminded me, what did Felicity say?
So Felicity asks, like, oh, Julie must have like flipped out. And Ben says, I didn't tell her. And Felicity is like, what, why not? Like, what are you thinking? Like it's almost like she intuits that he's having second thoughts about Julie.
Yeah. I feel like the fact that she brought it up is standing up for Julie in a way. Like hey, Julie should know. She knows she doesn't have the whole story either, and I think she's also being cautious with herself in terms of like, if I'm going to be on Julie's side, I want to hear from Julie first. I don't want to like
Mhm.
have it for fun. But could have asked more questions? Sure, but also, you know, the shift is happening. Things are going on. People want their coffee and croissants. So this might not have been the best timing for that type of conversation. And
She
may
has
have
all her
planned.
serious conversations with Noel while she's working.
This is
Like-
true.
Well, also she's not on top of her game because isn't she also having a spell where she just
Forgetful.
like forgets everything?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she is forgetting to be a good friend.
Yeah,
So-
it's I don't know, Sarah. Her approach is really interesting. Where Ben says things are getting really serious. Like, I don't know, we've both been through a lot. And Felicity's like, yeah, but now it's summer and you guys can like have fun and you're perfect together. Like, I don't think this is the approach. If you really want your friend Julie to be happy, I don't think you should try to convince her boyfriend to like stay with her if he's not happy with her.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sounds like a very logical thing to say from a 34-year-old woman.
Well, and also like at the like, yes, you just wanted like being in a relationship was like the top like social status you could have.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I also think there's a part of Felicity that's like, but this fun road trip we were all gonna have.
Yeah,
together."
totally. Yeah, like she was like already on the trip.
Yeah,
She was
that's
like,
true. She's like, don't ruin this for me, Ben.
Yeah,
Please.
I think she doesn't want her friend hurt. She wants to take this fun road trip. Like, she's like, but we just got the foursome together and we could all hang out together. And if you break up with Julie, that's gonna ruin things.
the force.
Wow.
Blown
How
wide
many
open,
points
people.
to JJ now for getting that?
I mean, okay, maybe a few.
A few points.
So funny.
He's coming up on top. I believe in him.
Then we're back in the Star Wars line, and I love the fact that Guy has had a conversation with a stranger about Noel's relationship.
Yes, this is like, I don't know, this reminds me of like going to gaming conventions, things like that. You just like end up like sharing lives with strangers. One thing I do want to say about the stranger though is I totally could not place that they were at a Star Wars line because I totally thought he was looking like a monk or something. And then I was like, oh, you're supposed to be Obi-Wan. So they could have done a little bit better there.
The
But-
costumes were not good.
Yeah,
But
I
we're
was just like,
Really dressed up is the thing. Like, I see one
Yes.
Leia who like is just wearing white and has her hair in the side buns.
yeah, but I think like this person really really was into like had to have used the monk costume for something else.
Mhm.
But yes, he's totally spilling all of Noel's business with this old wise man though. He just wants to help Noel, Jess. He just wants to help him.
Yeah,
You
he
know,
says
see
you
the
must
light.
do
Go to
what you
Peru.
feel is right.
Yeah. That's what we
Yeah.
all have to do at the
And
end
then,
of the day.
I mean, Sarah, there is something to be said for like 15 people saying like, hey, you should go to Berlin. Like,
Yeah. I mean, once again, like, why are you asking for some people's advice if you're not going to take it?
maybe the
Mhm.
strength card was for Noel.
Yes. Yeah.
Like he has to
maybe.
have the strength to
The
say
strength.
no.
Say no to Felicity.
Gotta say no
I
to
have to go to
this.
Berlin. Oh my God, Jessica.
I will never not, okay? When there's a Hamilton reference to be made,
There was no hand. You shoehorn that in.
it fits though.
You're
What
like
is
the
it?
stuffed sister
I
from
got it.
Cinderella that stuffs her foot into the glass slipper.
Yes, because I wear size 10 and most women wear like a size 8.
I'm with you,
You-
Jess.
Yes. Large feet girlies unite. I
Yes.
will say, Marissa, can I tell you one of my dumbest, deepest fears?
Please.
My mom wears a size 10 and a half. Now,
Yes.
for all you large footed folks out there,
Yeah.
they stopped making half sizes for women after 10. Like fucking monsters.
Yeah.
And my mom said, guess what? Pregnancy made her feet bigger. And I said,
Yep.
if I have a kid and that kid forces me to have to wear a 10 and a half size shoe and I go through the same battles my mom does with every pair of shoes she tries to buy, I will resent that child forever.
Okay. Okay. Well, there's some things to work through in
Lots to
that
unpack there,
situation.
yeah.
But
Go back to therapy.
I totally know because I have watched my mom struggle with them. Her feet also got bigger with her pregnancies.
Oh my God, we
so-
need to get our moms into contact with each
Yeah.
other so they can vent to each other about this. It's a
And
real
find out-
problem, people.
It is. And the shoes that they make for larger sizes are never stylish.
And they
Like,
never have any of them.
No, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
Be
Anyway,
better. Capitalism.
be better, shoe people. So we get our next tarot card, the High Priestess, and this one, according to JJ, means secrets.
Secrets.
I got a secret. This is like intuition again, mystery, wisdom, listening to your gut, meditating, like just being at one with
I feel
yourself.
like this could make sense. This could be something.
This could, like, it's adjacent.
It's adjacent.
Maybe, yeah,
to
but
the storyline.
I guess it's because of like the Ben and Julie thing.
Julie definitely was a high priestess in the situation.
Yeah.
She, trusted her gut and said, I hear what you're saying when you're not saying it.
Yeah. I think that I think that's the better option versus like, oh, Ben is trying to follow his intuition. It's like, not really. Because Lynn and Ben are like hanging out at Ben's apartment, and I'm so frustrated with Ben. I'm so frustrated. Like, Marissa, he keeps secrets all the time from all his favorite people. Like, he doesn't tell Julie any of like the gambling stuff going on and his money troubles. Like, he refuses to tell Lynn about what's been going on with Nicole. It's like, why are you keeping secrets for other people like Nicole? Like, you are friends with Lynn, not with Nicole, in my opinion. Maybe he's friends with both of them, but like, we've seen him spend the majority of his time with Lynn.
Yes, and this is what had my little teenage heart going between Team Noel and Team Ben, because like Team Noel, I'd be like, oh my gosh, you're so cute, and also like high achiever, oh my gosh. But then like Ben, oh my gosh, you're also hot, and also you're a troubled, tortured soul.
I'll tell you what happened. He spent his entire life being what he perceived to be as a burden to his father, which made him too afraid to open up when there is an actual problem. So why in the world in his brain would he feel safe opening up to people about his problems or things going on, when he's been met with literal, I think, physical and verbal abuse from his father? He was trained that way. This is why he can't talk about people who he perceives as close to him. And I gotta be honest, there's probably a big factor that he doesn't get as close to people as other people get close. Like, I think that there's going to always be a wall up of protection for Ben.
I'm so proud of your little trauma-informed analysis there. I was like, way to go, Sarah. That was great.
I mean, this is what we learn in therapy. Thank you.
I do think it makes sense, especially because there's also the option of like, Ben can be worried that if he tells Lynn about Nicole, Lynn blames Ben and is like, okay, we're not friends anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like this is his first like real close friend beyond Sean, who is more like, they're friends, but more roommates than friends.
He's used to people. This is the I've been learning this week a lot about avoidant attachment. Yeah. Not avoidant, sorry. Which one am I thinking of? The one that I am. I blocked it out of my memory because I was obsessing about it this week. Anxious attachment. He has anxious attachment. He grew up in his life feeling like it was unstable and people were leaving him, and his mother literally like cut off verbal communication to him later on. So like he is afraid that people are going to freak out on him and he's going to lose everybody in his life. So poor Ben, he's a tortured soul.
This is what I'm saying. Like, tortured soul.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But Ben needs to go to therapy. That is,
we all do.
Sure. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. Poor Ben. So Ben does not want to tell anybody, and
and he just had, like, I keep going back to that like conversation he had with his mom. Like, that went well. I'm sure he's got the whole other, like, something's gonna drop now. Like
Oh yes.
the other
That.
shoe's gonna drop. I can't. I have to. The
Oh,
only thing I can do is control the situation in the way that I know how, which is only giving specific information to specific people about
wow.
Yeah.
specific things.
This is a mirror onto my own life.
And it feels very conflict averse, right? Like the way he's been handling all of this, where he then goes to Nicole and
Mhm.
says, "Hey, if you keep coming on to me, I'm gonna tell Lynn." Like, this is after he says, "I think you're beautiful and sexy, but but if you keep coming on to me, I'm gonna have to talk to Lynn. Like, he's my really good friend, and you're putting me in a really tough spot." Which again, like, I mean, I'm sure it took guts and, like, for him to even say that to Nicole. But a little bit more conflict averse because he's not, telling Lynn and then having that whole thing
Right.
boil over. And then he is in the library with Julie. And gosh, I there are a lot of places I wouldn't want to be like broken up with or have like a very serious relationship conversation, Marissa. A library feels like a terrible place for you to be having this conversation. It's supposed to be quiet, so you can't even get
Yep.
like emotional and loud, which
Yep.
could be purposeful on Ben's. He probably planned this because he's
Yep.
like, I don't want her to yell at me. I just
Like I already did something that was really scary for me today. I already told Nicole, like,
yes.
hey, you got this. And he also is probably thinking in the back of his head, like, Nicole's gonna tell Lynn anyway. So my friendship is already like he probably is already in a shame spiral of
Like I've
of
already
Nicole.
lost everybody, so
Yeah.
might as well like
Let's blow
rip
this
this
up
band-aid
too.
off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I
Mhm.
will now everyone's gone and I am alone like I always thought I would be.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, there is something very purposeful in choosing this location. And it's oh god, it breaks my heart, Sarah, because Julie is like so excited. She's like highlighting this travel book. She's like planning out their little adventure together. And he says, "Oh, I've been thinking about some things." And I love Julie saying, like, "Okay, are you gonna be more specific?" Or like, Julie is a queen.
Yeah.
Okay. I love her. And Ben approaches this conversation by again, I'm trying to give him grace. He's 18 years old. Like, this seems like probably his first serious relationship, I would assume. I don't know if he had any in high school, but it feels like it.
Well, and it
Um,
started in a weird place.
that's true.
Very much so.
Yeah, and he says, "Do you ever think we're too serious?" And she says, "Why? Do you?" And he says, "Yeah, we're 18 and sometimes it feels like we're older. Do you feel like that?" And Julie, of course Julie, Sarah thinks that she's like, "Did I do something?" This
Yeah.
feels so relatable that like you have a conversation and of course immediately you're like, "Oh my gosh, am I being like," because I mean, I think one of the worst things you could be called in a relationship if you're a woman especially is like clingy, and she's probably
Mhm.
thinking like, "Oh my gosh, am I being too clingy?"
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think that she and of course like her automatic thought is to blame herself, like what did I do? And yeah, yeah. And I think that like she also makes a good point. It's like, well, we lived a lot of life this year. So like yeah, like things got serious. Like we didn't have the luxury of having like a carefree year where we just got to fuck
Mhm.
around. Like real life serious stuff came.
But I think that's what was the draw of the trip for her. She was like, this is our time. Like this now we can do that. Like we've already
Now
been
we
through
can be
this stuff. Now we can
free.
be free. And not that free, Ben. Like not free in that way. Like
Mhm.
we could be free
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, and I love Julie calling him out and saying, "You're doing that guy thing where you
Yep.
act all confused, but you know exactly what you're thinking." And I despised Ben in this moment when she says like, "Oh, well maybe taking a break is a good idea." And he said, "Oh, I never said anything about breaking up." And Julie calls him out and she's like, "Of course you didn't. You didn't say those exact words, but like that's exactly what you meant." And
Yeah.
I loved this, Marissa, because this happens all the time. And I don't want to like gender it because I do think it happens in on especially on TV and both genders in both situations where and it's like a cop out. It's such a cowardly way to end a relationship is to like make the other person essentially break up with you.
I think it's a very human experience. I think it's something I
Yeah.
have definitely been on both sides of this Ben conversation. I have withheld information. I have not led with my own feelings in a situation and tried to just get the other person to think and guess what I'm saying, because and that I know why that is through my own therapy. That's because of, things that happened in my childhood where I didn't get what I needed, what I wanted. There are always reasons behind this, but that doesn't take away from the impact of these, conversations. In that situation, I was not forthcoming with my feelings. I did not say what I wanted to happen. I did not ask questions. I just kind of poked and prodded and kind of steered a conversation to get to where I needed it, where I felt comfortable, which for me at that time, feeling comfortable, which I'm sure feels like for Ben, is not happy. Feeling comfortable is feeling rejected. Feeling comfortable is feeling like there's something wrong with me. So I was like on the, putting myself in Ben's situation. And this also happened in my own life, like feeling like you're at the top of something. I don't know. I've never been here before. This doesn't feel comfortable. Let me go back down. Let me go back to where it feels comfortable. And I didn't know that was happening in my own brain. Like those neural pathways were firing. They're ready. They were there to support me in the only way that they knew how. Now that I know that I can make a different choice. And I don't think Ben has been exposed to the world in that way.
It's a really good point. It's like, Sarah, I think the thing having me give Ben a little bit more grace in this situation is like knowing their ages and like knowing the shit that he just went through and how it's affecting things. But I really have to say I was like so impressed with Julie in this situation. Like her not only knowing what Ben was doing in that moment, even if he wasn't necessarily aware of it, like in the front of his mind, and calling him out on it, I do think is like the right move, and just being like, this is exactly what you're doing and this is why it's so painful, and then excusing yourself from the situation. Like I can't think of a better way Julie could have handled that conversation.
No, I mean, like Julie did a great job. Like I think that she like definitely was able to say her piece and then get out of that situation that was very hurtful, and she didn't blow up, she didn't make a scene, she didn't like cry to him in the middle of the thing, which like I mean, I certainly probably would. Like I especially at that age, emotional wreck. But she like left, and she was able to like go to Felicity, who was able to comfort her in those moments, which is like great. And
This is
breakups
where
are
we
hard.
get especially when like, again, like this feels very similar to like the Noel Felicity thing, where it's like, well, you planned out this whole trip together, you were so excited for it, and then suddenly boom, like the floor is, what is it, the rug gets pulled out from under you and it's like flat on your back. We get our next tarot card, Marissa, the Queen of Swords, and the little title is Loss.
Okay, here's the thing. The Queen of Swords, she's kind of a badass. Like, I don't like when you get this card, your things are going to be clear. You're going to be able to see through things. You're independent. You can make judgments without emotions. Not necessarily loss. But also, I would say Julie. Julie
I was just going to say,
situation.
sounds like Julie. Yeah. And Felicity is being a good friend. Like she is like listening. And I don't know, Sarah. I don't know that Felicity necessarily says the right thing here. Like she says like, well, maybe he probably doesn't want to break from you. Like maybe he just needs a break from everything. Like you guys will work it out. I don't know. I feel like you're giving Julie a little bit of false hope there.
I think that she's still hoping to go on that trip across country.
Yeah, she's like, oh man, this really is gonna harsh the vibe.
Ulterior motives, but I think that she also like sees her friend in distress and doesn't want her to have like a breakdown. Like I don't know. I mean, I think that like treating Julie with kids gloves is probably what she feels is okay in the moment.
I feel like doesn't she say at one point like it will be okay? And I think that is like no matter what happens. No matter what happens, it will be okay. But also, she, if I saw my friend that was like, I did something wrong, like I would probably say it's not because of you. it's because of the
Yeah,
situation.
screw that guy. That's
Yeah.
probably what I would say, but that's usually my gut instinct anyway. Screw that guy. So yeah, then we get, I can't with this Elena McGrath garbage. I just, Sarah, can we watch a 90s show without
No.
an inappropriate adult like
No.
what this
Well,
Ugh!
I just have to say, this is interesting having just coming off of watching Quiet on Set, which is a whole nother conversation.
Oh
But
my
like
gosh,
the
yes.
fact that like all of this was happening in the zeitgeist at the same time is really, really, really interesting to me.
And that we're like glorifying it. Like we don't talk about like the score and all of that obviously a ton, but in these shows the music cues are basically
Mhm.
there to like tell you how to feel, right? In a show like Survivor, in a show like Felicity, in any show, they're there to tell you you should be feeling this or you should be feeling that. In a scary movie, it, the music is suspenseful, you should be scared, right? Like this is just, that's how it works. And so of course, when you see a scene where you have a very, very inappropriate relationship and they're putting this like flowery romantic music under it, it's like, this is so inappropriate, but the show wants us to root for this.
Well, and he says, this is the kicker for me. This is not my first student relationship.
That I was like that would put me off so bad. I would be like, ooh, so this is your thing.
Yes, this is his
This
thing, is
is-
to have
this is your
inappropriate
thing.
relationships with his students.
Yeah, that would, I don't know, like if obviously like Elena is like feeling big feelings and she's like thinks that she has something special with him, like that would just put me off. Like, oh, like you've done this before. I'm not the first one. I'm not special. I'm not unique to this. Like you do this. Oh, don't like it. Don't like it very much.
No.
Well, and
No.
his whole argument of like, I'm not going to call on you in class. Like, why don't you let I'm going to make you feel bad in class, but then I'm going to have this conversation with you here and then also continue that. Like,
Yeah.
mm-mm,
Emotional
It's so twisted.
manipulation.
It's very manipulative. And I also especially thought it was extremely manipulative for him to say, oh, it's probably just because I'm like intimidated by you. When we
I was
all know who holds
overcompensating.
we all know who holds the power in this relationship. Like there's a really
Mhm.
bad power imbalance here. And yeah, it's disgusting. I hate it. I wish we didn't get this, especially because I love Elena so much. And I was game for her when she comes into the office and she starts off the conversation with like, we can't do this because what happened in class was like not okay. And
yeah.
it's just like, it's very upsetting. I really hate this storyline. I'm going to continue to bash it because it doesn't age well. I find it just to be really off-putting to watch constantly on these shows and them trying to make us feel like we should want this when no one should want this,
Yeah. And then like now that, well, at least from my perspective, what has that done to all of our psyches along the
Oh,
way?
certainly.
You know what I
This-
mean? Like,
you know how many teenage people watched this
Yeah.
when it was on and thought, oh, this seems great. And they watched this, Dawson's Creek. They watched all of it, all of them
Yep.
that have had these sort of relationships
Yep.
that are certainly only going to end horribly. So,
But there are also great things you can learn from television. It's like this.
No,
Sucks,
there are,
but then also
yeah.
it's a
but
spectrum.
now let's not
of
glorify
experiences.
these
Yeah.
sorts of relationships.
No.
That's what these shows are
No.
doing.
Yeah.
We get our next tarot card, the Lovers, and of course the word on screen is love.
This is okay, yes, partnership duality, but also one thing that the Lovers can signify is trust. Like there's a trust, and this I thought was interesting given what we see coming up next. So this is half points for JJ.
Okay, half points. Better than before. So we have this conversation happening between Noel and Felicity where Noel is trying to make a Star Wars reference to like get Felicity to understand like what's going on. And he basically just says like, oh, I can't go on the trip. I have to go to Berlin earlier than I thought. And Sarah, I feel like Felicity was very reassuring. She says like, you're not going to lose me. Like it's going to be really hard, but like you're not going to lose me.
Good for her. Send him off. Bon voyage.
Yeah.
See you in the fall.
This is certainly the move over being like, no, you should stay. You should stay here with me.
Yeah, I mean, she's supporting what he wants, but then they're also like, making the most of the time that they have left.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
See what happens.
Yeah.
In the fall.
Yeah, they talk about their kissing. And they're like, well, maybe we should just kiss one more time just to purge our system. Sarah, the show is just like, we got to get those Scott Foley pillowy lips back in the kissing game. That's what we need.
Yes, please. Please and thank you.
I forgot how close the close-ups were in the show. I was
So
like,
so close.
So bad for my screenshots. So bad.
Yeah, but it is a good kiss. I mean, they have great kiss chemistry. Can't deny that.
they do.
Yeah. And so they're like, okay, I guess I'll just talk to you later. Okay, bye. And when Felicity gets back to her room, Megan has taped the picture back together. She said she lost a few pieces and the spell didn't work. And when Felicity asks what it was, Megan says it was a love spell, which was supposed to work guaranteed. But I forgot the clove, which happens to be the key ingredient.
I can't
Rookie
believe
mistake,
it.
Megs.
Yeah.
Rookie mistake.
And yeah, when she looks at the picture that Megan taped back together, Megan, it wasn't that many pieces. It was like it was like a 12-piece puzzle, girl.
She's so bad at puzzles.
She's extremely. She puts Ben's face on Noel's body so that Felicity and Noel are like appear to be next to each other in the photo.
I think it worked.
Yeah. Well, and also what I love about this is she's like, I tried it on someone, not myself. And Felicity's like, who? I'm like, Felicity, come on. Like, who do you think? Who do you think she tried the spell on and it did not work on? She's been using you as a test all the time.
Is there, Jessica, is Felicity gonna room with Megan next year?
I sure hope so. I need this to finish, like to continue.
This would be so dumb.
I feel like the show has to make it happen though. Like I don't know how they're gonna do it.
In
but
what
like
reality, in what reality would Felicity agree to room with Megan again?
I don't know, but I feel like she has to for the good of everything.
Okay, so this is what's gonna happen. Okay, so like in one of my colleges, there was like a ranking system with roommates, and essentially like you would put down like your first choice as a roommate and then like your second choice and then your third choice, and it was like a mutual ranking system because then your roommate
so then they wouldn't necessarily know, and then you would just like pair
essentially
up. Okay.
So Felicity puts in her rankings like Julie or Elena number 1, Julie number 2, Megan number 3. Megan puts Felicity number 1 and nobody else, and then and then basically Elena and Julie either put each other as their number 1s or number 2s, so then they go together and then Felicity gets bounced to be roommates with Megan. That's how it happens.
I like this a lot. I think because it would make like you'd think Felicity and Julie would end up rooming together, but there's going to be some
Elena
shenanigans.
and Felicity. I guarantee you it's the ranking system.
What if it could be? The other thought I had is like, what if it's supposed to be like Julie and Felicity or Elena and Felicity, and then shenanigans happen the last second, and like there's a typographical error or something like that, and it's like, well, the only one we have left to room with is Megan, and so
it's gonna be some sort of something.
Wait.
Yeah.
But Felicity tries to make Megan feel better. You know, she's just like, oh, wouldn't it be great if like you could just make things happen by doing a spell? And Megan's all upset. And I love Felicity goes over to Megan's side of the room and like sits on her bed to comfort her. And Megan just says, get off my bed.
Like the invasion of privacy of stealing hair is like not on the same level as sitting on somebody else's bed.
Totally different.
Or eating their things out of their fridge and replacing them with your own underwear, you know. I love Megan. Megan is the best. I've completely come around on Megan. She's great.
Yeah.
So back at Dean and DeLuca, and this, I will say, Marissa, this to me felt really like real life, where when you're in high school and college, I mean, even as an adult, but like I really feel like it hits hard in those times in your life, especially like when you first get a job, your coworkers become really good friends. Like you automatically become closer with them. I had a friend who like, we were always in the same friend group of like about 8 or 10 people. We weren't especially close until we started working at the same place. And then we became best friends because you're around them so often and you're relying on them. And I
Well,
do
and
think,
work will trauma bond you. Also,
yes, especially if you work in the food service industry.
yeah.
And so seeing Felicity and Ben like get closer because they're working together did make a lot of sense to me.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Especially like having to work a late night. What are you gonna do? You gotta talk about talk about your life, talk to each other, stuff like that.
Mhm.
And also like they have the very unique experience of being a student who is also working. Like the amount of
Yeah.
things that they have in common in this
Being from
moment
the
are quite
same
high.
town.
Same town, same friend group, same, like they
Mhm.
have a lot to talk about.
Yes, there's something to Ben feeling like he can, it feels like he's always comfortable opening up to Felicity over everyone else, right? Like it's her door he shows up to when he got beat up because of his gambling debts. Like
Yeah.
she's the one who he's telling about all this Julie stuff. Like,
Yeah.
is there something to like the balance of their relationship where it's like Felicity literally stalked him, and so now he's like, well, nothing I've done is as bad as that, and so I can open up to her.
Probably. Let's talk about the most interesting part of all of this. As
Mhm.
they're doing the inventory, Felicity finds, of course,
Hmm?
clove, expired clove, and then because she's a clumsy fuck, she knocks over the clove, and the clove is everywhere, thus initiating and solidifying the love spell.
Yeah, and this all happens while they're talking about like Felicity not wanting to go on the road trip because it would just be her and Ben.
Well,
Mhm.
okay. So we've got like look at the layers, the spell stack, as
Yes.
you might say. We've
Yes.
got the clumsiness with the clove. We've got the forgetting that she's not boyfriend girlfriend with Noel. Like there's like she didn't just like make out or tell Noel like, "Hey, I'm gonna be here when you get back," type of thing. I don't know. I was trying to fit the forgetting in there. That's really the only place I can see it.
No, she forgot. Like she got called upon in class, and she forgot.
No, but I mean, in this moment,
Oh, in this
like,
moment,
because I
yeah.
think, like, if we were
Mm.
to make the case that Megan knew what she was doing all
Oh, it's just like
along,
boiling over.
it's
Like it's
just like
everything's
it's
yeah.
building on top of each other.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
we had the
Mhm.
clove spillover, we had the forgetting that, maybe forgetting that Ben's in a, well, I guess she knew that they broke up. I don't know, but
Yeah.
Maybe
we get to an
forgetting
end
that she
point
got
here.
over Ben. She's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're getting, so she dumps a bunch of the clove and they're like laughing and they obviously have a moment where they like he's basically trying to convince her to still go on the road trip even though Julie and Noel aren't going. And their faces are like 6 inches apart
Well,
here.
and they are doing the classic, like, let's lean down and pick something up type of move
Mhm.
of like, we're in this vulnerable position that we're not normally in. So,
Yeah.
looking
And
lovingly into each other's eyes.
it feels very read between the lines of this conversation, right? Where he's like, "Oh, so will you come?" And she says, "Do you think I should?" And it really
Mhm.
feels like she's asking a different question, Sarah. It really feels like
Mhm.
she's asking the like morally, should I go? Right? Like, am I going to upset Julie? And also, should I go because there's something going on between us currently in this moment because there's this spark? Like it feels like there's so many more questions within that question she asked.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's like a very open-ended, heavy question. Like, should
Mhm.
I? Should I do any of this? And I mean, like, only
Yeah.
she can answer that question, really.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that she trusted Ben with the answer to the question. Like, what do you think Ben's gonna say? It does show like he used the same type of communication style in this conversation as he did with Julie and the other
Yeah.
one, of like not just saying, I would really like it if you
Yes,
came.
very annoying, especially because he whisper talks everything, and
Yes.
I've only recently noticed it, and it drives me up a wall. As someone who is a very loud person, who I feel like I enunciate a fair bit. I'm married to a mumbler, low talking mumbler, and it drives me up a wall.
What,
Like
you tell him to speak up? What do you do?
Um, it's the thing that annoys me more than anything else is like, let's pretend I'm like in a different room watching something or listening to a podcast.
Mhm.
Instead of starting the conversation with like a hey or like can you pause that for a sec? I want to talk about something. He just like starts talking. And because I have like this, I've noticed this thing about myself lately where I really struggle if with sound, especially if there are like multiple sources of sound at the same time, I cannot concentrate at all. Like when we went down to visit our nieces and nephew, and all three of them are talking at once, and the radio is on and the TV is on. It's like I can't. I have to pause one thing to focus on the other thing. And so like if he just starts talking, I'm like, hold on. Let me pause this. Now please speak. Especially when he's
Interesting.
mumbling and
Yeah.
I can't understand him.
Well, yeah. With all due respect, your husband is a bit of a mumbler.
He's a mumbler. And I think it's worse, Marissa, too, because there's something about like lower octave, like lower registers are hard to understand. Like scientifically.
Yes,
Yeah.
you are correct. Yeah.
And so it makes it worse because I swear, and I'm not saying this as like, oh, you have selective hearing, and it's like a big joke. I swear sometimes he hits octaves I just don't hear because they're low.
It could be. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. And
Yeah.
also like audio on TV these days, like everything, it's just getting harder and harder to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, my ears are totally screwed up probably. So yeah, so they have this moment. They nearly kiss. Then there's like a knock at the door. So it interrupts them. And yeah, like Felicity ends the episode saying like, "Oh my gosh, we're going to be like traveling across the country alone for 2 weeks. What about Noel and Julie? Like how are they going to react when they found out?"
Who cares?
I mean,
fuck
here's
it.
the thing.
We're young, wild, and free.
Sarah, can we make some predictions on the reactions from Julie and Noel?
Yeah, they're gonna be sour, so sour that they're going to get together. But guess what? Because the picture says so, Jessica. The picture.
Oh, right, the black magic. Yeah.
Yes, the picture said so. They're probably gonna hook up. Like they're gonna be sour. You know, they hold grudges together.
See, I think they're gonna have two very different reactions. Like, I don't think Noel and also this dude's job,
they're gonna be so upset. What are you talking about? Both of them.
No. I'm not saying they're not going to be upset, but I think Noel will be more vocally like very concerned and jealous and envious and all of those things.
Yeah.
I think Julie feels more the type to turn in on herself.
Julie's gonna transfer out of the school. What are you talking about?
She probably should, because all these people treat her poorly.
Julie's gonna legitimately just like leave.
I mean,
She's
obviously,
done.
Marissa, you're spoiled, so you can't necessarily weigh in on who's gonna do what. But like, yeah, I think before you even consider actually taking this trip with Ben, I think you have to have conversations with both Julie and Noel of like, this is
just be messy bitches. Just go. Have no conversations. They're the
conversation.
Everybody's single now. Let's just go ruin each other's lives. Let's go.
Oh my god.
I mean, they're only 18, Jess.
Yeah.
I know. I expect so much of them for the ages that they
ask
are.
fucking permission? No way. Let's go. Let's go on the trip. Let's go.
Yeah. But I have to say, Marissa, this episode was like literally everything to me. I'm like, it is. I think it's my favorite of the season, and I'm so intrigued to see what's gonna happen next week. Sarah, are we gonna end on a cliffhanger? I feel like we might.
Yeah, probably. A little kissy.
I mean, I think Felicity and Ben are gonna be getting it in. I think we're gonna have. I did the getting it in action with my fist and my finger. I don't know why I did that. I mean,
vile human.
They're gonna get it in. That's it.
Maybe. Yeah, well, we'll see. Let's see what happens with our last episode of season 1 of Felicity.
Yeah, speaking of, Sarah, do you want to know the title?
Yeah, what's the title?
Gosh, this is so corny. Felicity was here. She's probably gotta write that or grave it onto a bench somewhere while they're
on
traveling.
a tree.
Yeah.
It was so nice
forever.
Yeah,
like that was everywhere. Like you write on everything.
On the bathroom stall.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was a big thing. But that was The Force. Now, Marissa, every episode we award a point to someone who we feel like was the best for that episode. Any strong feelings on who should get the point this episode?
Well, not JJ.
Definitely not JJ. Last episode, Sean got it. Lynn's
I
gotten a
think
point.
Julie gets. I think Julie's a strong candidate for the point, given her, listening to herself, not necessarily making it messy for anybody else. She's my front winner for this one.
Yeah, what do you think, Sarah?
I would say maybe like if not Julie, maybe Felicity, because she had to put up with a lot of spells this episode, and she's triumphant. She tells Noel to go to Berlin. It says
She
boy
does.
bye. Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved that for her.
Part of me so badly wants to give this point to
No.
Megan just for
No.
giving us
Near.
all of the joy of the spells. But I feel like I'm gonna be outvoted, and I'm
Well,
also cool with going with
Jessica-
Julie just because she
Okay.
really was like the best. She's always the best.
Mhm.
But Megan did practice black magic.
Okay, but I could also make an argument for Megan because she was in control of the plot the whole time, and the
That's what I'm
repercussions
saying.
of this
All right,
situation
then
may be
you
felt.
people figure it out together. You don't like my option? Fine.
Can we do 2 points?
No.
We only
Okay.
give 1 point per episode. Yeah.
Well,
I don't
I
know
mean-
why we have these rules, but
because
that's
we
what
set them
do.
at the beginning of the season and we can't change them now.
Yes, we can.
Well,
Do whatever we
go
want.
forth with what feels good. May the force be with you on this one.
Oh my god. Also, Megan is the one who brings up the force in this episode.
I don't know what that has to do.
I don't either, but I do think we
Okay,
should give Megan the point.
Go shoehorn whatever point you want to give into
Yes.
whomever, whatever.
Megan's getting the
It's
point.
a flawed system. None of it ever matters.
Oh my god.
Fuck it.
It's this nonsense.
It's ridiculous.
Okay. Do we want to hear what DBK has to say about this episode?
I mean, yeah.
What up, though, ladies? Okay, I mean, a lot happened this episode. We get a lot of Megan. We get her spells, which I'm pretty pumped about. But coming out of this, I have a few questions. Do we think Ben would have actually done stuff with Nicole had Sean not interrupted? Because,
Oh, let me finish his thought first because I was going to pause it so he can answer.
like,
Hold
he
on.
doesn't really ever shut Nicole down. And, like, he is not very, like, he's always, like, too flattered when women like him. He doesn't.
Do we think anything would have happened with
No.
Nicole? I feel like maybe they kiss again, but like I don't think it goes as far as like them having sex or something.
Ben was
No.
never showing like any initiative in that
Yeah.
situation either. So
Yeah.
I would vote no.
Yeah.
Does his like stupid little smile giggle thing. It's annoying. But so yeah, that's my first question. Second question is, does Megan like Felicity? Does she put a love spell on Felicity at the end of the episode? And
Like, is the spell for Felicity and Megan?
Oh, we
No.
think Megan was trying to put a spell on Felicity so that Felicity would love
Oh,
Megan.
like Megan?
I don't know. I might have to rehear the question, but that's what I took from it.
Well, I guess we could also look at it alternatively as Megan was trying to help Felicity by putting a love spell on Felicity and Noel.
Like help, like a friend platonically,
help
like
facilitate them getting back together. Megan doesn't feel like someone who would be like, "Oh, Felicity, I care so much about your and Noel's relationship
would
that
just
I
be
would like to."
super direct.
Also, what kind of love spell involves ripping up a photo all apart? That feels like the opposite of a love spell.
I feel like Megan's intentions were to just like fuck everybody up.
Yeah.
Well, and also get to know her own power. Like in this situation, it's very
Testing the
interesting
waters,
because
yeah.
she doesn't like her power in the story as a whole is very minimal, but in this one episode, she has all the cards per se.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All the tarot cards.
Okay, let's see what DBK had to say.
What do we think about Ben breaking up with Julie because they're too serious? I feel like that's a fair point for Ben to like point out. But like, why is he doing it now? Is it like the Nicole of it all? Is it too serious? Or is it his sudden feelings for one maybe possibly Felicity Elizabeth Porter. Because, I mean, he seems pretty upset when she says that she's not going to go on the road trip. And then he does his Ben thing and charms her into, like, agreeing, at least for now, right? So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But, yeah, lots of Meg in this episode, which is great. And, yeah, until next week, ladies, peace.
I feel like Ben ends the relationship not necessarily because of Nicole or because of Felicity, but because he wants freedom. Like it
Yeah.
feels to me like he's not feeling that connection with Julie as
Julie.
much anymore. And to Marissa's point, like the bonding they had originally was at a really rough time for kind of both of them. And so, yeah, I don't know. It feels like he just doesn't want something serious at the moment.
Well, and everything is giving him a way out. Oh, I have my student debts taken care of. Oh, I'm going to be able to pay back some of this gambling debt and also go across the country and
Mhm.
do all this stuff. So it's kind of like the allure of freedom, especially for a teenager, is very, very strong. And so
Mhm.
I don't think he woke up at the beginning of this episode saying, you know what? I'm going to break up with Julie.
Yeah.
I just think that he was given certain circumstances that kind of like led this path for him or made
Yeah,
it
I can
easier
see
for him to
that.
take that
Mhm.
path.
Yeah, I don't think that his intentions were to go after Felicity. I think that like after they spend 3 weeks together driving across country, that will certainly be his intentions. But I feel as though he just likes the idea of freedom, financial freedom, freedom to go wherever he wants, freedom from being under the control of his parents or father, freedom from a relationship. I think that that's what he's after.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, like we said, like this all feels very natural to happen, especially when you're in college and you're in this like very serious relationship that you kind of like stumbled into. If it, I feel like I don't know that it was ever a super thoughtful relationship from Ben's side, at least. So yeah, I don't know. I don't blame him for wanting out. I just like
Mhm.
he certainly could have handled it better, but he also could have handled it much worse. Like I've seen much worse breakups. Looking at you, Burger with the post-it and Sex in the City.
Mhm.
I will never ever forgive him for that. But yeah, that was our episode, the penultimate episode of season 1, the best episode of season 1 so far. I don't know, Sarah, do you think the finale is going to be better?
No,
I don't think it will either. I think I'm going
maybe.
to be left on a cliffhanger and be upset about it or something.
Sure.
I just
mean,
need you all to remember
yeah.
it was a lot of time in between seasons.
It was months. Yeah.
Oh, I just keep that in mind.
There's a
Think of
lot
us OG watchers, like
between
whew.
season 1 and season 2.
Between all seasons, like
Oh.
this was a regular TV show. So like
Yeah.
as you're going through, there was also like a midwinter break. Like the amount of like hysteria, for lack of a better term, it wasn't like, but like this held our lives together for quite some time of like, oh my gosh, I wonder what they're doing. Well, like they're not real, Marissa. They don't like really exist, but that's where my brain would go during these times.
Yeah. That's our episode. I'm loving Felicity. I'm loving the end of the season. I'm really excited for what is coming up for us. If you ever want to send in feedback, shit90spod on Twitter and Instagram, shit90spod.com. We also have a Gmail, shit90spod@gmail.com. Is where you can reach out to us. And Sarah, should we announce our theme for our bonus content for April? I don't think we've talked about it yet.
Do it up. Do it up.
All right. So we are inviting some lovely ladies onto the podcast to talk about basically actors from Buffy and Felicity in their side ventures in
No,
the
that's
90s.
not what we're doing next week.
We're not? I
No,
forgot.
that's
What
in
are we
2
doing?
months.
Oh,
We're
I don't remember. So you threw it to me and I thought you were going to know and you were going to say it and I forgot.
No. So what we're doing is we are bringing on Melissa and Lindy to talk about like just random movies that we're vibing with. But
That's right.
it's because of the celebration of Whirlwind podcast that launched in your podcatchers, and
Mhm.
we're getting Lindy on to talk about Drive Me Crazy, which we've been watching for a
Yes.
while, of Melissa Joan Hart and that guy with curly hair. And we're
Adrian,
talking
what's his
about
name? Yep.
Adrian something or other, yeah.
Adrian. Okay, and then Melissa's hot pick of The Mummy, because I don't know, because I
I've
wanna
never
do
seen The Mummy.
Oh,
Yeah.
so yes,
Brendan
that's
Fraser.
what we're doing. And then the month after that, we are covering movies that are from people from
Buffy and Felicity
Buffy and
specifically.
Felicity.
Yeah. So spoiler alert for that month. Sorry, I got my wires crossed. I know we had talked about it and that was where it was in my head, but you'd think I'd edit this all out of the podcast. I'm not gonna. You're gonna get to hear all of that nonsense. So you're welcome.
Lazy work.
Well,
Joking.
yeah. Well, I didn't feel like having to take it back, and then
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what? They're used to mess.
Sure,
That's
sure.
what
Okay.
that's what's like around here.
this is how podcasts are made.
Yes. So Marissa,
Da-da-da-da.
what are you up to? What are you up to?
What am I up to? Well, Sarah, let me tell you. I'm hanging out a little bit with your friends over at Whirlwind Podcast. We're working on some stuff over there. Otherwise, I'm writing a lot about television, and you can keep up with my blog/newsletter by going to It's Me, Marissa G at ghost.io. And
Great name.
thank you. I don't know, like I'm just talking about whatever's in my head, pretty much.
Yeah, Quiet on
around
Set
that
most recently, which if you
most
have not
recently.
if you haven't not watched Quiet on Set, which was a documentary on HBO Max, right? Is that correct,
Yeah.
Marissa? All about all of the behind the scenes stuff that happened on Nickelodeon in the 90s. Listen, it's not for the faint of heart. A lot of content warnings need to be issued for that specifically. So like enter with care, but totally ruined a lot of my childhood watching that, Marissa. I don't know about you. I was like aghast and disappointed and like heartbroken at some of the content, but it's really interesting and just goes to show you really don't know what's going on behind the scenes in some of these situations, and really, really good documentary.
I think it's an important watch. I think it's important to know what's going on. For me, I'm a little bit of a generation-ish ahead of you. So for me, it was like, what did I let my sister watch? Like and also how did the children's television landscape change from Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street to something not so much like that? So it's an important watch.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It was really, really interesting. But yeah, so definitely check that out. Marissa, I've been loving reading what you're up to. I think it's really interesting to hear about, especially because I feel like growing up, and I feel like you probably experienced this too, as someone like in a similar generation and like similar age range of TV was very villainized, and it still is to a certain extent, of like TV is bad for you. And, nowadays we have like, screen time limitations and all of that. Right. And a lot of it is villainized as to like what your kids shouldn't be watching. And they're getting, gun violence comes from TV and blah, blah, blah. But I think it's really interesting to hear perspectives on people of like why they watch TV and how it's actually a really helpful thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, it can be. It can be helpful, and that's what I hope to do in terms of just sharing certain things. I talk about how like I don't have a mind's eye, and that's a big part of why I watch television and how I consume stories and things like that. So there's a lot around the subject that I'm looking forward to exploring. So
yeah, so definitely check that out. It's me, marissag.ghost.io.
Thanks, Jess.
And yeah, you could find me at the Jess Sterling, and on Twitter, I'm still doing Talking Shit with my friend Stuart, where we're going through Schitt's Creek. It's been so much fun. I absolutely adore that show. It is like a warm blanket. It really is. So if you're someone who like feels like you need that in your life right now, highly recommend watching that show and listening to the podcast, of course. And Sarah, you have so much. It's a whirlwind over there for you. I'm going to make that joke so many times.
I know, and I have to stop snickering every single time you do it. But yeah, Whirlwind Podcast. You can follow us at Whirlwind Pod on Twitter and Instagram to see what we're up to. We had our full week of content, which was an incredible launch week, and we're really excited and really eager to keep on going. And I'm excited when Marissa's piece of the pie comes on, because it's Previous Little Liars is like my favorite treat. It's not even a guilty treat, it's just my favorite treat. So and then continue to follow us at Shit 90s Pod and follow along.
yeah, that's what we have going on. Thank you so much, Marissa, for joining us for this
Oh,
podcast. Such a
pleasure's
delight
all mine.
always. It's
Thank
always
you
a
so much
delight
for
getting to
having
chat
me.
with you. So yeah, that's what we have going on. Catch us next week for the finale of Felicity. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Until then, everyone, have a good one. Bye.
Just ask. Shit 90 shows taught me.
Shit 90 Shows Taught Me was not filmed before a live studio audience.